Whatever happened to the Ninth Legion? Why does the music play in the Devil's Cairn? What will the Doctor do when an endless battle must be waged to save all of mankind? Is this a good Irish accent? Who knows? Find out today on Voices from the Vortex.
Broadcast amplitude at maximum capacity. Transmitting through time and space in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex reviews Doctor Who Series 10, Episode 10, The Eaters of Light.
Hello out there, everyone in Vortex Land. This is Taylor.
And this is definitely Matt.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Definitely Matt. Definitely Matt.
Doctor Who's on at 9. Doctor's on 9.
This is definitely Voices from the Vortex.
Hey guys!
Welcome. We're here for another exciting review for Series 10 of Doctor Who, which is almost over. Oh my god.
It's very close. Yeah, the two-parter left after this.
I know. It went so fast.
It kind of did.
But, you know, time flies when you're having fun, and I have been having so much fun watching this season, for sure.
I completely share that sentiment, and you're right. This has been, and we've said it a bunch of times already, this has been the best Capaldi season, and man, have these episodes been fun to watch. I've looked forward to every episode this season, where other seasons I have not looked forward to the next episode in previous years or recent years.
Yeah. Well, you know. We won't go into that too much.
It's almost over.
We have an episode to talk about, and this is The Eaters of Light, which was written by Rona Munro, and we talked about it a little bit last time, but she is a classic Who writer. She's the
classic Who writer, yeah.
The first former classic Who writer, I believe.
Yeah.
To come back and do this. So that is really cool, and she knocked it out of the park, I have to say. It was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to remind everyone, Rona Munro wrote the very last episode of Doctor Who. She wrote Survival, the last story for the Seventh Doctor. So she played them out, the old show, and she's playing out Capaldi in kind of a big way. This is the last single episode for Capaldi before Moffat's finales. I say finales because it'll be the two-parter and then the Christmas special. So.
Yep. Well, let's dive right in here. We'll talk about the plot and the monster. So we had this interdimensional, rift that was hidden under a hillside or hidden under some sort of. It was in the hill, and then they had built sort of this thing around it, and there are these. I don't know what to call them, but Bohemians is what the Romans called them, or the savages, or whatever. The people of this area, sort of, somebody holds this monster back every, however often it comes out, the stories or the legends are told, and the person whose job it was, they were getting attacked by the Romans, so she lets it out to attack them, and then she can't get it back, and it's causing all this trouble, and apparently it could, destroy everything, so, it was a really interesting story, and we didn't have a lot to go on from the trailer, so I didn't know anything about this story, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I enjoyed watching this episode from beginning to end, but it was a good mystery. Like, you didn't know what was happening from moment to moment, and it really paced itself, I thought, very well. And, we just said it, but Rona Munro just knocked it out of the park with this.
Yeah, this was, I always enjoy the season story arcs that Stephen Moffat has got going on, and sometimes I get a little annoyed with these filler episodes.
Yeah.
And especially last season, I didn't really care about the episodes, especially because they were two-parters, so they were even longer, that I had to not care about a certain thing. But, these episodes that, it's like, okay, let's get to the plot here. And I think part of that is Moffat's kind of plan that he's got for this season story arc. That's sort of actually, it's a story going on at the same time instead of just hinting at what's going to happen at the end, which we've talked about at length. But the standalone episodes for this season have been spectacular. They've been really, really good for the most part. Even the ones that we didn't like that much, they were good. They were okay. We enjoyed them.
Yeah,
so,
we were forced to sort of nitpick on things that we didn't like. There were certain little things,
right.
But that didn't make them bad episodes.
And I even have little nitpicky things about this episode, but they're not like it doesn't matter because it was so good. It's like, why really go into it? So, but these standalone episodes have been just great, and this was another one where it was a great story. It was something different. It wasn't the same old. I feel like a lot of times in Doctor Who, the even if it's like a different location and a different monster, a different time period, the kind of story is the same. And we've seen a lot of that with like the second Doctor. We talked about that a lot, where it's like it's a crew, and then there's rebels or something. I felt like the story was so different and so unique that it really played to its strength.
Something I want to note too. This is by my calculation, the third episode this season that takes place in the past. This is the third period piece, from Thin Ice to Empress of Mars to this one. And no, it's just interesting because usually Doctor Who, the modern season, does not have as many period pieces. Usually it's one or two a year. And it's nice. It's nice to see that while I'm watching this, it didn't even dawn on me I'm watching a period piece. This didn't, like when I watched Thin Ice, it kind of screams period piece, obviously. Yeah. But this, even though it's in the past and it's as far back really as they go without going to 10,000 BC. I was really impressed. I kind of lost myself in it, and didn't even realize where we were, what was happening. I will say, I love the monster in this. An interdimensional monster, a light eater. The Doctor even warns he'll eat the sun and then he'll eat the stars. That's a really neat idea. That's just something you don't see a lot. I mean, we see a lot of interdimensional stuff, but we don't see an awful lot of like. I don't know. It's sort of it's a fairy tale, and it's the thing you tell your children. It's the boogeyman under the bed, but it's also something that wasn't just science. It was this is an actual monster. This is an alien thing that is truly frightening. And then to top it off, we have an interdimensional portal. Right.
Yeah, and the things I liked about this episode were the fact I always like the episodes that mix sort of the science with sort of the mythology of something. I always like those. I think that's kind of neat. It was kind of a funny part, but it was kind of a cool thing that Rona did in this episode was the whole thing about the crows and that like they could always talk. But the woman's name was Car, and so that's what you hear. Car, Car. Like, that's what the crows are saying, Caw. I always thought that was kind of... I like when they do that on Doctor Who, where they explain something that's been happening for so long, just like with some wacky explanation. So I always like sort of a retcon of history. I always like those.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a, and I'll probably say this a bunch of times with this episode, this review. That's such a classic Who thing to do. Is why is the world the way it is? How does the world exist today because of what happened in this episode? But I did, and it was a little cheesy. I know a lot of people who pointed fingers and said, "Nah, that was over the top." Sure, but it was great. It's over the top, but it's really good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's Doctor Who. I mean, come on now. It should be over the top. It's not. This isn't a, it's not a police drama. It's a police box drama.
Womp womp.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay. So anyway,
that was over the top, but I loved it. This part.
One of the things I really liked about this episode was the idea where they really went into the. They talked a lot about how the TARDIS was translating for everyone, and so not only could Bill and the Doctor and Nardal understand everyone, and everyone could understand them, but also the Romans and I'm just going to call them the natives, because I don't really know what they were called. The Romans and the natives could also understand each other, because they spoke different languages because of the TARDIS, and that brought a whole new level to their their discussion and their battle they were having. And I love the idea that the Doctor asked Bill, what do they sound like? And she's like, what do they sound like to the others? And he goes, they sound like a child. They sound like children too. And it's this idea that the Doctor, he's so old and he's been around for so long that every conflict to him just must seem like children bickering all the time.
And he says that. He says they all sound like children.
Yeah.
And but you're absolutely right. And that's one of the brilliance of this episode, was that it showed it isn't just that, you have, it wasn't just that you have a rivalry, right, or a war going on and the Doctor solves it. It's that once they all had a common language and a common enemy, they could begin to talk and understand each other. But even to the Doctor, they still sound like children trying to grow up. I know he makes that quote at one point in time about, well, not all of them sound like children, and he gives her a look, gives Bill a look, and that's obviously he's saying the ones I pick are not children.
Right.
Why he picked Adric, I'll never know, but he did. It is, and this is definitely a tale about humans taking control of their destiny. Yes, they're children, but they're growing up, and they're making the decision to do what needs to be done. Right. He was willing to sacrifice his life. The Doctor said, I'll spend eternity fighting these things for you. I never die. And they said, absolutely not. That's not your job. This is our world, and this is what we do. So they, taking control of their destinies and growing up.
Yeah, I liked the way this ended. I thought, oh, it's just going to be that girl, who she sacrifices herself. She goes in there, but I liked the idea that they all banded together to take care of this. I thought that was really great. There was one scene in particular that was it was pretty amusing. It's where Bill is with the Romans and she's talking to them, and the one Roman is kind of hitting on her the whole time. And she, is talking to him, and she kind of finds out, oh, he's trying to hit on me, and she says, you know what, I don't really like men, I'm more into women. And he's like, oh, that's cool, I see that, that's such a closed-minded,
narrow-minded,
whatever. Narrow-minded. Yeah, he's like, because we're all bisexual or whatever.
What? But
that was really funny.
This is something that's always bothered me about our world today, and I love it when a show like this comes along to really point it out to people again. Monogamous heterosexual relationships being, and I'm air quoting, good versus all others. Is a 500 or 600 year old problem started by very, very Catholic and Christian nations in Europe. Period. Most of the world before 12 or 1300 AD, right, was still living in an idea, much as the Romans did, much as the Greeks did. Especially if you're talking about Europe, lived in a world where it didn't matter if you were a man, you were expected to love other men as you loved women, because that was just a part of human nature. Sexuality was about about anything and everything. That was a completely separate piece of the puzzle to being human versus what you believe. The gods didn't stop you from being sexually open. And I love it when that gets pointed out, because the Roman Empire was the greatest empire of the earth, lasted for a long time, and brought with it everything today that we still use. And they didn't care. There was to them no difference between heterosexuality and homosexuality. It wasn't a part of the conversation. And I think that's amazing that this world had that. And today, that resurgence, that's as a society, we're trying to remind people that that's how the world is. I love it when we've been saying it, Doctor Who's been political all season, and there's another piece of it.
Yeah, and that's so great too, that when, you know, they talk a lot about it in Thin Ice. They talked about whitewashing of history. You know, it's sort of the same thing as sort of the straight washing of history. And, you know, not all these things that actually did happen in history are represented. And it's really nice to see, you know, what really happened back then and how people really acted and how certain sensibilities about certain things were and what was considered normal at the time. And that's not just, you know, hidden because it's taboo today. So I thought that was really neat. That was a neat scene, too. So, and I love that they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you know, right next to that, we also had an episode where the Romans were basically Klingons, where they couldn't help but write them as, it's all about their honor to die in battle. Today is a good day to die. And that's the Romans were written to be Klingons, and I was like, all right, good, yeah, excellent. That's what I wanted.
Exactly.
Right alongside my modern society of bisexualism and the political stances of ancient Greeks was Klingons. Well played.
Well, let's talk about the characters here a little bit of the character development. So. One thing, this wasn't really development, but one thing about the characters that I really loved, and anybody who listens to our show may agree, and Matt, maybe you will agree on this. The Doctor and Nardole in this episode were the Bachelor and the Associate. Okay, they were a comedy duo in this episode, and I loved it. It was so great. You know, I have to think that, you know, Rona Munro, she's got all this humor, and she's written for the Seventh Doctor, and she's got all this great stuff that she this attitude of how the Doctor should be, and she has all these great bits. But then Nardole's kind of thrown in there, so she goes, you know what? I'm gonna put them. They're gonna be a comedy duo together. So
absolutely.
Oh my god, it was so funny. We'll go into some of my favorite lines later, but the whole scene where they first get captured by the natives.
Oh, that was great.
It was so great. It was like it was like the natives couldn't get a sentence out without the Doctor and Nardole having some kind of witty comment or snarky comeback. It was just
absolutely.
It was perfect, and that's the way I feel like that Doctor Who should be written that way all the time, every time.
Well, and that it helps that, you know, we've been very fortunate this season. We've had both Bill and Nardole, and Nardole has really been a Doctor's friend. He's a companion. Yeah. He's a pal. You know, he's somebody that the Doctor can play off of. They can both kind of not be mean to each other, but they can both make fun of each other, and they're like almost like BFFs. And because of that, you get this really great dynamic where the two sides are able to again kind of play off that Bachelor and Associate vibe, where it's just they can just crack jokes at one another. And then we also got Bill, who was the new companion who's seeing the Doctor through new eyes. So it's not just the Doctor and Rose, or the Doctor and Martha, or the Doctor and Donna. You know, it's the Doctor and a best friend, and then Bill. And I love that because then you can have two different conversations and two different moments in a scene. But I agree 100%. Dr. and Nardole were basically the Bachelor and Associate. And you cannot convince me that Moffat didn't have Rona Munro sit down and listen to voices from the Vortex before she wrote her episode.
Rona, you've got to listen to this.
Listen,
brilliant.
I've been listening to these guys for years, and they're good. They're well, there's something.
That's exactly what it is. I almost wonder if if Nardole is sort of Moffat's sort of version of K9. Like he wanted to write some sort of some version of K, because that's what he is. He's like K9 in this, and he's part robot, so it's even that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Moffat for this season, I think he got tired of the real serious stuff. He's been writing Doctor Who since season 5. We're on season 10. But in years, that's been almost 8 years. He has been writing Doctor Who for almost a decade. The man's tired. You can see it. His plots, his storylines, reusing characters and story arcs and through lines. He's tired. He's done. And I think when he got to this season, he said, I want it to be fun, I want it to be funny, I want it to have some lighthearted adventure, and I don't want everything to seem like it's all building to a predetermined climax. And I like that about this. I like that, and Nardole is the perfect example. Nardole being there is entirely Stephen Moffat's ability to do comedy and to relax and have fun with Doctor Who.
Well, I love that you said that he doesn't want it to come to a predetermined ending, because you're right. A lot of Moffat's, almost all of Moffat's seasons.
I was about to say there has yet to be a season where
there's
Moffat
been a
has
prophecy or something. Yeah, there's been a prophecy or something timey-wimey where it's happened already and it's leading to. Yeah.
Right. There has been all of Matt Smith's run, every season individually, and then all 3 seasons as an arc, were all written that the ending had already happened, and it was just now it was going backwards in time, affecting each one of his seasons. So the Pandorica was in response to the Cracks, which was in response to the war on Trenzalore, and
then the Impossible Astronaut.
And the Impossible Astronaut with River Song was because of the war on Trenzalore. And
then Clara.
We get to the Impossible Girl. She was leading him to her so she could step into his time stream because of the greater intelligence. When you get to season 8, he starts doing that thing again where he starts putting it in there saying, oh, but where do we get our ideas of heaven and hell? And is it possible that came from the Master and his TARDIS? And, while season 8 wasn't about the ending leading the characters there, it certainly was a process, right? It was about how Missy was doing things and pitting people together, and she's the one that got, Clara and the Doctor together in the first place to get him to her. And then season 9, of course, with the hybrid.
Yeah, the whole prophecy about the hybrid. So yeah, like everything. So I feel like this season, it's like, we don't know what's going to happen, and everything, they're just going about their business. You know what I mean? There's there's some stuff we don't know that's already happened, but it's not, it's not leading to some, you're right. It's not all because of something that's already happened or that's going to happen. So it's kind of fresh. Everything's fresh. It's not all like, it doesn't all have to connect to that ending. Yeah. Yeah.
We do also see that the Doctor here, once again, is the permanent champion of humanity, willing to take on any task, no matter how monumental, in order to be the one to save humankind.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, just that he would step into the cairn.
Oh yeah, and that's, at first I thought it was going to be one of those things where he would step in, and then they would just travel 10,000 years ahead in the TARDIS or something and pick him up. And I was like, we don't need another one of those where the Doctor adds 10,000 years onto us. Yeah. but it was like, no, it was a permanent thing. So yeah, he's still, it's that thing. He's willing to just like step in there and make that sacrifice, and which always just seems so ridiculous to the companion.
Yeah.
And they like, no, why would you do this? Why, like they can handle it. He's like, so yeah,
Right.
and he's stubborn, of course. So
Of course.
One thing I really loved was is just the continuation of Bill becoming just a better Bill. Becoming smarter and braver and more kick-ass. She, at the beginning of the season, and we talked about how, especially after the whole monk thing, she's really grown a lot after that.
Yes.
And becoming more gung-ho about these things. Well, this whole episode starts with her arguing about the doctor. Oh, you think you know the Romans better than I do? Like, why would she think that she knows the Romans better than the guy who's time traveled and gone with the Romans? But she's sticking to it. She says, you know what? I know the Romans better than you. I'm gonna prove it. Let's split up. She even says she doesn't even like you and she goes, you and Nardal go, and I'll go by myself. I mean, that's crazy. And I wouldn't have seen the Bill from the beginning of the season doing this, so it's really great to see that sort of character development of Bill just becoming more awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I like that Bill is comfortable with the Doctor now, because that's really what was missing at the beginning. What we saw was she was learning at the very beginning, and we figured was going to happen is that she'd become far more comfortable with who the Doctor is and how he works. Remember, we were talking about from Thin Ice when it shocked her to learn in episode 3. Shocked her to learn that he had killed people and that he made those choices. And it was such a and that came right after Smile, when it shocked her to learn that he wasn't necessarily always rooting for the humans. Which came as a shock after episode 1, where she finds out that he has a time-traveling device that's bigger on the inside.
Yeah, you're completely right. So, let's look at the season story arc for this. We get some more fun Missy stuff.
Oh, we finally understand the purpose of all of this. The Doctor was putting Missy in the vault so she would be changed so she could become the TARDIS janitor.
That's it.
I get it. Oh,
it's her purpose.
The great Capaldo and Missy the janitor.
His assistant, Missy.
His assistant. His assistant, Missy.
We didn't really get much more, but we'll talk about the promo when we get to the end, because that's where the good stuff is, as far as the season story arc goes. But there is a great conversation at the end between her and the Doctor, and it's just this, it's this whole idea of, can she really change? And the Doctor's just still not sure. He's like, it's possible, but I can't be sure.
So here's the thing, and I said this last time, I'm going to say it again, but I'm going to say it a little more seriously now. I totally expect that she's not serious. That either this is a ploy of hers the whole time, or that she may be genuine in wanting it, but it's never going to work out, so she's just going to end up being evil, and she's going to have a glib line like, well, the bad girl can't turn good, you ought to know that, or something, something stupid. What I'm hoping happens... Now, that's what I'm expecting.
I'm hoping it's a little more nuanced than that, but yes.
No. I'm hoping for an honest, genuine change. That Missy will truly and truthfully become a better person, and even when the Doctor, all the way to the very last moment of the last episode, he's not going to believe her. But she will sacrifice herself. She will die. She'll commit, whatever she has to do to save him, even at the cost of her own life. And at the very end, the Doctor's going to go, I guess people really can change. And it's going to hurt him because he'll have lost his best friend again. That's what I'm hoping. happens.
Yeah.
Because, guys, we've seen every story, every possibility of the story already. He gave us Davros in season 9, I think specifically to remind us this cannot happen.
Yeah.
This won't work. But I would love to be surprised by Capaldi's, Moffat's final stories. I really would. So, I'm hoping there's a genuine change. Because I'll tell you what, she's trying. She appears to be trying.
Yeah.
And she appears to be affected by all of
Or,
this.
or she's playing a very, very, very long game.
But,
that's
to what end?
But exactly, yeah.
See, I just don't understand. What's the point of having a whole season where they keep uncovering these layers, where they're showing us that she's trying to change, just so we get to the end of it and she doesn't, and then we go, oh, we knew that all along. I think that would be a disservice to the character and a disservice to the audience. I'd feel like Moffat just wanted to put Missy in a bigger role in the season, and this is all he could come up with. And if that's what it is, he's tired, he's at the end of his run, we all kind of expected it. Okay, season 10 ends with a whimper, not a bang, and we go on to the Chibs, and that's great. But
that's gonna make me laugh every time.
just get ready for next season,
yeah,
because it's gonna be Chibs, chibbity chibbity,
the Chibby,
the Chibby,
or damn it, Chibs, we'll be mad.
Chibs,
why?
Oh, that Chibs.
So yeah, it's this season's story arc definitely has some interesting avenues it can go down.
Yeah,
and we'll have to see. I hope it's something different and interesting. I hope you're right.
I do too.
I hope it's not predictable and disappointing. So, yeah, I don't know. So, what do you think about the production of this episode?
It looked good, certainly. Like many of the episodes so far this season, I've been underwhelmed necessarily with the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny how they managed to make Scotland not look like anything. And it's like last episode, it's funny how everything took place in a cave, so you didn't really know it was on Mars. And, the episodes before that, some of them happened in a pyramid, so it was just stones and hallways.
A dark room, yeah.
And, right. The only episode, maybe the only few episodes this season that have really stood out with its backgrounds have been in the first 4 or 5 episodes. Smile, because it was a modern-day London.
Oh, yeah. Thin Ice was great.
Or not Smile, I'm sorry, the pilot, because it's a modern-day London. Smile, because it's the future. Thin Ice, because it's London of the past, in the Frost Fair. Knock Knock, because it's in a creepy Scooby-Doo house. And I mean, those are interesting. This is look, some woods at night. Oh, look, they're in a hut.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they're in a cave.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they're in a all right. But thankfully, the whole episode's not about the backgrounds.
Right.
It had amazingly good atmosphere, great environment for the story. It was spooky.
Yeah.
And it was mysterious.
Well, and everything was great about, the music and the costumes and, like, sort of that whole vibe was good. I will say...
Oh, the Romans looked amazing, didn't they?
Yeah. I will say, though...
All right, that's all you had. Proper Romans. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was not... The backgrounds really bothered me, and the monster kind of bothered me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't terribly impressed with the monster. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's the idea that you have this monster, and the tendrils were pretty cool. The tendrils that would come out, but then when you finally get a good look at the whole beast, it's just like, yeah, okay, just another TV CGI creature that somebody put together.
Just another manic Monday.
I don't know. It's hard and this is such a first world problem, but it's hard in this day and age where we've seen so many monsters now, and there's so many, like, I don't feel like there's anything that can, I don't feel like anybody could come up with a new monster that I would see and I'd be like, whoa, you know what I mean? It's just like, they're all, like, even the monks, they talked a lot about how, the monks are going to be really creepy, and I was like, yeah, but they were just the silence, basically. You know, they looked kind of the same, just a different color or whatever. So I don't know.
You know, I'll tell you something that bothered me
Monsters
about
are
the
hard.
monster. Well, and what you're saying. It isn't that they can't come up with new monster designs that could shock you or surprise you. It's that they are limited, and that this is still a children's show, and that you can only go so far.
Yep.
Before you cross into very adult scary. I can think of several designs off the top of my head that would scare the living bejeebus out of me. But you can't put that in a show which is technically designed for 5-year-olds.
Well,
like it's supposed to entertain children as much as adults, so you can't scare the bejeebus out of children.
And it's not necessarily that I want it to be scary.
You can't scare them.
But I think I want to see the thing and go, oh, that's cool. And I don't have that anymore. I don't know. I feel like I've seen it all. I don't know. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's, down the road, somebody will create something new that I'll think is amazing. But, you know.
You are a universe-wary Time Lord, my friend. You have seen too much and done too much, and I think we need to examine that in season 3 of Voices from the Vortex, because that is a real problem. You're right. We have seen far too much with our ridiculous shenanigans, and it's difficult, especially when there's 50 plus years of Doctor Who. You and I are watching through the Pertwee era now, and you know, that's an era of very unique looking monsters and aliens.
Yeah.
And the Tom Baker era will certainly bring a lot of that to a head as well. But there will be a time where the monsters stop looking like monsters and they just start looking like people. And, you know, it's always a return of an old monster. There's nothing new, nothing exciting. And New Who might have hit that. We might have reached a time where, you know, everything is reminiscent of something you've seen before, so you feel like you've walked the world. You've seen it all. That might be where we're at.
One thing I will say about this episode, though, was about the production of it was, you know, and just a basic, you know, I don't know if anyone else is going to be listening to these podcasts like later, like way later, if you know, if they're catching up to Doctor Who, you know, in a couple of years, and they're kind of listening to our podcast at the same time. But when this episode came out, this season came out, we just had Wonder Woman come out, and it's been a huge success. You know, female superhero lead in a movie and a female director, and it's been a huge success. So I just want to say, yay females, because this episode, again, written by a female, and it's one of the best ones of the season. And I feel like not only Hollywood, but even, you know, over in England, they're starting to get that. And I feel like some of the best stuff of New Who has had women, you know, at the helm, whether it be writing or directing. You know, we've had Sarah Dollard, who's a writer, and she's written some of the best ones. She wrote Face the Raven last season, and then this year she wrote Thin Ice, which is one of our favorites from this season. And then we've got Rachel Talalay, and she's been directing all the finales. And regardless of what we think of the writing of the finales or the plot, you know, and any of the plot holes we have problems with Stephen Moffat, you gotta admit, though, the directing and just the style and the way, the epicness of these episodes have been amazing. And I think it's because of these women who are taking the helm and having more of a say and more of an input into this creative process. So that's my 2 cents on that. So
I completely agree. It's hard. It's easy. Okay, it's hard to talk about Doctor Who without addressing the fact that Who has for a long time been, I think, a male's club. Just that's a majority of the writers or directors. Not that historically it's always been that way. There have been, obviously Verity Lambert, who helped create the show, clearly is a woman. It's Doctor Who has, and more than her. I'm just using her as one example. But writers, directors, producers. In producers too, a long history of women in the show, but sometimes the most fan-facing or viewer-facing people involved in the series have been men, and it's easy to look at that and then to criticize, and sometimes you should. One of the criticisms you and I, Taylor, have bemoaned for years, and we think it's an unfair criticism, is that Stephen Moffat is often considered to be someone who writes weak or terrible women parts. He writes women as being helpless or as being, plot devices. You and I say the exact opposite. He writes very strong women who redefine the show and redefine the Doctor. So it is really good to see more females working on the show. You're right, Rachel Talele, who has done a bang-up job directing these episodes. You wouldn't know it unless you knew it, right? You wouldn't know from one episode to another. But we have always been aware of who's directing these episodes and who's writing them, and she has just produced quality work. Sarah Dollard has written fantastic episodes. Rona Munro, obviously, I think has written one of the highlight episodes of this season. And that, to me, speaks light years about the BBC, about Doctor Who, about this program, about Stephen Moffat as a showrunner, and about the culture that they have. So, dipping my toe into very dangerous waters. There are a lot of people who like the idea and a lot of people who hate the idea. So that's why I'm saying dangerous waters. It is a polarizing statement. The Doctor might be female next regeneration. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's something the BBC wants. I'm not saying it isn't something that should or shouldn't. I'm not saying it's something that would or wouldn't be good. I'm saying I don't know if that's what the BBC wants. So, leave that there. But my point is, even if that doesn't happen, even if that never happens, it might. I'm saying it won't. But if it doesn't happen, the show still has this massive core to it that are female producers, writers, and directors, and that for me shows me that this show is very firmly taken care of by men and women equally, and I think that's a huge step for television and a huge step for the show. There's where I'm getting at with that. Toe out of the dangerous waters.
Get that toe out of there.
I don't want to start something, and I don't want any of the fans who listen to us to think that I'm trying to make a statement about it. I'm just carefully saying there are those who love the idea and those who hate it, and then people like Taylor and I who ride the fence on it because we don't care necessarily if it is or isn't a woman. We just want it to be a good show. We're just saying. Right. We don't know if it'll happen, and it might not. My official stance is I would love to see that. You're right. I don't know if it's going to happen, especially this next one. But, the one after that, it's highly likely that that could happen. The one after that, I'm totally fine with that, and I kind of look forward to that because that's something I'd like to see. It would be something different, and I know it could be done well. I have there's no doubt in my mind that it couldn't be done well. Completely agree.
Yeah.
And
all right, let's. No, go ahead. I was just gonna say.
I'll shut up about it. Last thing I'll say about it is, guys, about the next Doctor, which we know is coming, and Taylor and I still believe we're gonna get a glimpse of the Doctor this season before it's over.
I hope.
Well, and it's not till Christmas. It's not till Christmas. So
Right.
we should not be saying this season, but, we still think there's going to be an announcement. So that it'll be,
Oh,
But,
do you want to know what I heard today? I heard this
Yeah.
today. That for the preview of the finale, like for the press, they actually cut out a scene to keep a secret. So like, the press is not getting a scene from the actual show
That's interesting.
to keep a certain secret. That's incredible.
That's very interesting.
So I hope you're right. I hope maybe that's the secret.
Well, they could be. Again, they've been saying for a while this isn't going to be a typical regeneration. We have been very spoiled with our regenerations, and that the last couple have been very straightforward. That's an exact quote from both Capaldi and Moffat. This one will be more complicated. The older Doctor regenerations were far more complicated, and that's just how it used to be. So, and I don't think we're going to go backwards in special effects. I think we're still going to see the energy shooting out of him and the transformation. I just think it's going to be like they say. I think there's going to be more. There's going to be a hitch to it that we're not used to. But no, all I was going to say was this: there are a lot of really good candidates out there, and I could go on for years about good pairings for the Doctor and for the Master and for the Companion. I still 100% would spend all my monies to see a Doctor Who episode where the Doctor was played by Watson and the Master was played by Sherlock, where you had Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch, respectively, playing those two parts. 100%, totally watch that.
I bet there's probably a fan fiction out there somewhere.
I'm sure there's 1,000 fan fictions out there. We write enough of our own. Maybe I'll write that someday. But all I'm saying is there are a lot of my number one for me has been and continues to be Idris Elba. He won't do it. He's got a new movie career started. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say new movie career. A new movie series started that he is in.
Franchise.
A new franchise that he'll be in for the next 10 years. Eddie Redmayne is also on the top of my list. He won't do it because he's in a new franchise. So my top picks are knocked out right away. But there are so many good people, and I know we've said it a couple times, and I keep batting this name around, but I keep wondering if we're not going to see Richard Ayoade as the Doctor. Just
that'd be great.
He just put him in a frumpy brown suit with an off-colored tie, and just let him have his bizarre hair, and just go with it. And I think it would be great. So anyway,
perfect.
All right, I'm done.
All right, these episodes, these reviews are getting longer and longer as the season goes on, and I know we've got lots to talk about for the promo. So let's real quick, lightning round. Favorite quotes, favorite moments. One of my again, we talked about them being sort of that comedic duo. One of those lines that really cemented that for me was they were just talking about, are you Roman? And he's like, oh, I'm not Italian, but I make a mean spag bowl. It's like, what? Bringing that up for no reason.
Let's see. I liked Nardal. What happened to you? Oh, I'm blending in. That's so Nardal.
Oh, one of the best lines was when he was like, wait a minute, quiet. Do you hear that? And he's like, shh. That's the sound of my patience shattering into a million pieces. Such a great line.
Let's see. What did I liked? If it helps, I do have a plan. And then he smiles that smile.
That Capaldi smile.
The great Capaldo smile that we all come to know and love.
Finally, it's not a funny line, but one of my favorite parts about this, it's kind of funny. One of my favorite parts about this, though, is they do talk a lot about the TARDIS translating for people. And Bill brings up something that I never thought about before. She goes, "Oh, it even does lip sync." So, like, not only is she that's a really good point. And not only is she realizing that she can hear what they're saying, but that the lips match. So they're not all. It's not like a bad dub, like a karate movie or something.
Bill has brought up the best questions this season I love her for it, because she's literally saying the things we've all kind of wondered and wanted to say but never really thought to say before. Like, wait, you the entire TARDIS, the entire thing is made with chrome, except you've got the wooden doors. What's with that? Would you run out of budget? Like, yeah. We're safe in here. The doors are wood. That's glass. How are we safe? Very good questions, Bill.
Yeah,
and I love that. I love that she's just thinking. So yeah.
Yeah, and the line at the very end was really great. It was not a funny line, but a real serious, just really cool moment. The Doctor and Missy that sort of talking, and she's like, he's struggling with that. Is she gonna change? Because they were friends, he wants to have his friend again, but she's gone so far off the deep end for so long. Can he come back? Can she come back to that? And he says that's the problem with hope. It's hard to resist. So he has his doubts, but he still can't resist that hope that his friend is in there somewhere. And I really liked that sentiment at the end. Yeah. So that was great. Well, final thoughts for me. I thought this was brilliant writing. For this, this felt very classic Who again. I guess my only complaint about this episode was there weren't a lot of twists or shocking moments. I felt like this episode was very simple. It was a very simple conflict. Oh, we have this. We have to get it. We have to put it back, and then the Doctor's very first plan just works, and they get it, and then they put it back. So I don't know, but that's my nitpicky complaint. But regardless of that, I thought the episode was still really enjoyable, and all the little things about it, and just its overall Doctor Who-iness is just all the things that are great about Doctor Who. So I loved it.
Yeah, I will share in many of those sentiments. I love this episode. Look, guys, I love it when someone with a great pedigree comes in and just schools the new kids. I mean, damn! This is how it's done, folks. This is a classic Who writer coming in saying, this is how you write something that feels Doctor Who. It's just the right amount of creepy, right amount of adventure, the right amount of doctoring to make it perfect. Classic Who had to stand on its own, episode to episode, story to story, and the ability of the writers to make that happen really shines through every episode, and this is what Rona Munro brought to this particular script. This is how you make good Doctor Who. That being said, there's a massive plot hole that I cannot overlook, and I want to throw it into my final thoughts right here, is that if all they had to do was bury the damn thing under a bunch of rocks, why did anybody have to walk inside? So, done.
I don't know.
Great episode. Huge plot hole. Kind of undercuts the awesome everybody running in together like you didn't have to. Just shut the door and bury the thing, because apparently that's all you got to do, so no one ever has to go in again. All right. Final thoughts. That's right.
Yeah.
Calculating. Voices from the Vortex gives The Eaters of Light 9 out of 10.
And now, my friends, it is time for...
Oh my god, that promo.
Oh my god, that promo!
Oh my god, the promo! Ah! Oh my god. This promo is amazing.
Missy, Bill, Monks, Sims.
Oh my god, this podcast is already at 55 minutes, and I know we have so much more to talk about this promo. So let's
talk about it all next week.
We'll try. But what I love about this episode coming up is that it's a Missy mission. He's sending Missy on his classic Doctor Who-y, type of adventure to see how she does. I love that plot line. I think that's hilarious.
It's better than a Dr. Dewey or Dr. Louie mission, but yes, I agree. I love seeing her being the Doctor.
Yes.
And of course, that final moment, that last line.
Oh, yes.
Give us a kiss. Give us a kiss. I've missed you.
I'm excited for Sims to come back. I've said it many times, but I don't like when somebody comes back and they just go, "Oh, I just came back because whatever." Like, it's like, no, I want to know how. I need to know how he got out, how he regenerated.
You're a continuity nerd.
I know. I want that. So.
It looks really great, guys. We're really excited for next week's episode. And most importantly, it's going to be the beginning of the end for Capaldo. So we definitely want to make sure...
Oh, the great Capaldo.
The great Capaldo. I definitely want to make... What?
I said, and Steven!
Steven! I'm ready to see them go out with a bang. I really am. And it already is shaping up to be that way, so...
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us today on the podcast. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. And alright, I can't keep that up.
Yeah. I guess make sure
give us a review.
Subscribe to us everywhere: Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Twitter.
We're on Twitter. We're on Tumblr. Just look for Voices from the Vortex. We're the only one.
Video.
It's easy to find. Yes, like this video.
If you
share
have any
with your
questions.
friends.
If you have any questions, send us an email, voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. That's where we get all of our inquiries, all 17 of them we've ever gotten in 5 years.
And my daughter just walked in the room, so that means it's the end, folks.
We'll see you next week, guys.
All right, everyone. Bye.
To the Vortex. This has been another Voices from the Vortex review for Series 10, starring Matthew Whitecamp as Matt the Time Lord, Taylor Davidson as Taylor the Time Lord, and Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS. All views expressed are the opinions of the two dudes from Gallifrey, and as such should be taken extremely seriously. Follow Voices from the Vortex on all social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Subscribe to us on iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the podcast, please email us at voicesfromthevortex@gmail.com. Doctor Who and all related materials are copyright BBC, and no infringement of copyright is intended. It's heavily implied, but never intended. See you next time in the Vortex!
Temporal flight engaged. Returning to the Vortex. End of transmission.
To the Vortex!